Franklin, we see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Good evening. At approximately 7:30 Central Standard Time this evening, and at a tether length of 19,001 R tether separated.
About 12 miles of tether were out.
50-millimeter lens, we were photographing the shape of the tether, and you can see it just starting to go slack now.
So lots of people that say it's debunked talk about ice crystals and stuff like that, but it was flying at 22 degrees nose down.
And recreated it with a disc, and that's what we're seeing. It didn't look like these things that we were seeing all over the place, you know, flashing and changing shape.
So NASA scientists said that the objects were likely to be ice particles, debris, or out of focus reflections. Like, we'll just throw everything at it. We're like, which one is it, guys? You guys are the scientists. Is it ice crystal? If this thing's 12 miles long, how big are these?
Oh.
I mean, they've got to be massive.
I think there was three coming down towards it, and one looked like a small ball, and it was kind of catching up with the other one. I thought, oh, look at that, it's really interesting. And then as that was happening, this disc comes up from the bottom and then curves in.
A couple of star-like things and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
Hi guys, it's Jimmy here from the UAP Files. Now today we've got something pretty special. I've been looking forward to making this one. I'm joined by Tom Vernon and Peter Osborne, my friends. Tom Vernon's got his own YouTube channel, Tom Vernon UAP, and he's a regular co-host on the UAP Files. And then we've got Peter Osborne, Truth in Focus, UFO, all one word, his YouTube channel where he enhances and brings to life and restores old footage. Super expert guy in this kind of field. So looking at old footage like the NASA STS-75 footage, which we're going to be looking at today, we're going to see some of Peter's enhancements. So in this episode, we're going to talk through the footage, we're going to show you the enhancements, and we'll do a little bit of analysis along the way. So let's jump in. Okay, so this one is the STS-75 Tether incident, which is the Space Shuttle Discovery 1996, I think February 22nd, 1996. The objective was to deploy and test the Tethered Satellite System, TSS-1R, which is a 12.8 mile long, 20.7 kilometers conductive tether meant to generate electricity from Earth's magnetic field. Electrodynamic tether. Tether snapped after extending about 12 miles, and NASA's official reason was that the electrical arcing caused the tether to break due to the overcurrent. The satellite still attached to the long tether drifted away and became visible in infrared UV light in NASA's footage. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So, Peter, Tom, I'll come to you first, Tom, because obviously Peter's done some enhancements of this, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. What were your thoughts on this? I mean, this is an old case.
It is an old case, but as these weird coincidences go, it was Shuttle Columbia, I think, and I actually saw Columbia take off when I was a kid, so I'd always been really interested in this kind of mission and stuff like that. So there's key things to bear in mind about it. So lots of people that say it's debunked talk about ice crystals and stuff like that, but it was flying at 22 degrees nose down. So it's kind of going this way, and it does leave this amazing like snail trail of crystals through it, but you're looking forwards, and there's no convection, it's not causing turbulence in space. So I think it's doubtful to me that the things that we're seeing are these ice crystals.
Yeah.
But also from looking at the full video, the tether looks kind of like you've just dropped a piece of string in a bathtub.
Yeah.
And then when we see it in these amazingly weird looking videos, it looks like sort of a blow up balloon that, it's obviously that blown out of focus. So I think lots of the stuff is probably normal but looks really weird because it's got the bokeh effect from being so out of focus. But some of it is super weird, and that's what's worth really drilling into, which is what Peter's been getting into, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the whole thing was the like the sensor or whatever it was, the experiment, was it? The
Well,
whole
I think
length
it's the experiment that went wrong, wasn't it? So the experiment
was
was
it?
to release this this tether and to test the electromagnetic. Let's have a look. Where is it?
Yeah, it looked like a big light bulb on a string,
Yeah.
if you imagine. It was this sort of big ball shaped thing
Oh,
on what was essentially this big um
I didn't see
silver
that.
silver covered cable which they'd extend out on it.
And that's what
But
we saw.
after it snaps, you can see the stub of it that's still attached to the to Columbia, and it's all singed and burnt at the end. So it makes perfect sense what they've said about
Yeah,
how and why it broke. It's just it's
absolutely.
the stuff around it that's
I know.
really curious, isn't it?
Well, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I watched the when Jimmy sent me the thing. Let's do this. I had a look at the debunker guy. You know, the I can't remember if he was a scientist or something. He did this and recreated it with a disc and saying, did he say it was the camera has a mirror behind it, like a sort of parabolic mirror or something, a bowl mirror, and that's what we're seeing in the footage.
Okay.
I was like, all right, and he recreated it and thought, oh yeah, that's plausible. It's even got he's put a little nick in the side of it, you know. But when I looked at the when he was showing the footage of the reflection of this bowl mirror, it did look just like a reflection in a window. It didn't look like these things that we were seeing all over the place, you know,
Mm.
flashing and changing shape.
Yeah.
And so that's, I thought, how can he say that? And that's it then. And they all kind of applauded. There's
Mm.
so much else going on, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about the 50 other things that are flying around?
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's easy for them to say ice crystals because I think
Yeah,
NASA's official. Where was it? I think they threw like several different things. So NASA
yeah,
scientists said that the objects were likely to be ice particles, debris, or out of focus reflections. Like we'll just throw everything at it. We're like, which one is
Yeah.
it, guys? You guys are the scientists. Is it ice crystal? And yeah, it was huge. I mean, what I found really, really strange was that the some of the objects passing underneath, and I think some of your enhancements,
mm,
Peter, we see that really clearly.
yeah.
That if this thing's 12 miles long,
Wow.
how big are these?
Oh,
I mean, they've got to be massive, like a
yeah,
two couple miles long.
yeah. I think I saw Joe Rogan where they were estimating the size of these things. It was absolute miles. It's so big. But this guy said that you can this effect that this mirror causes will look as though it's going behind it, and it did, you know, on some of it. But that was just like I say, just one part of it. There is
Mm,
so much more, isn't there?
yeah.
Yeah, it's another thing is that a lot of it, some of the stuff that looks kind of, let's call it medium cool, doesn't change direction. So about 80% of stuff is just going in a straight
Yeah,
line, just not
yeah,
necessarily the same straight lines. But there are a few which are turning, or one goes off to the left-hand side and then
yeah,
stops and comes back to the right. So
Mm,
that's not a particle. There's they do talk about degassing, which is like a comet's tail, where bits of water crystals will evaporate, and that will push it off like an old retro booster kind of thing would work on the shuttle itself.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that it just wouldn't look like it does on this, and you'd see sort of a cloud of gas and stuff anyway. So
yeah, I think that's probably the part that people find really difficult to accept if we go with debris or ice particles
Yeah.
is there's certain parts of that footage as you mentioned, and you've got it actually. I'm just looking through the video that it's enhanced, Peter, and you
Yeah.
can see the one that sort of goes from right of screen to left of screen, and then just kind of hangs around for a minute, and then just goes back across to the
Well,
right of screen. It's like
I
that
know.
looks intelligently controlled. Like I don't.
Absolutely. I got that. That was from the NASA tether footage feed thing.
Mm,
I found it was a really good one. And when I was editing it, I thought, oh God, I don't remember seeing that before on it. I don't know what part it was. I didn't find it again. It was just that one bit of it flying off. There was no context with it, was there? There was nothing else. They didn't say anything about it. absolutely goes one direction, stops, comes back again. That was incredible. I mean, but the other one that passes underneath and changes direction, I like that one. I was focusing on I think there was three coming down towards it, and one looked like a small ball, and it was kind of catching up with the other one. I thought, oh, look at that, that's really interesting. And then, as that was happening, this disc comes up from the bottom, and then curves in, and then goes right across, but then changes into like a ball thing right at the edge of the screen. I think I did do a close up on that. So not only does it cross and change direction, it also changes shape, or whatever it looks like it's changing shape.
Yeah, that's
I've
crazy.
got that on there.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, so what are your, I mean, I've spent quite some time looking at it over the last year or so, I guess. I think I looked at it when I first saw it was probably about a year ago. I mean, it had been, obviously it's been out there for a long, long time, but when it comes to like researching NASA cases for videos or whatever, and I really dug into it at that point, I found it fascinating, and I kind of accept some of the objects are probably debris, some of the objects are probably ice crystals. I'd accepted that had it not been for some of them that it seemed to be moving intelligently, or at least have some kind of propulsion where they're able to stop and move. I understand there's probably some science there around the atmosphere out there and having, I don't know, a change of temperature, whatever that might, propel it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they haven't addressed that, have they? NASA didn't address that.
They
It's going
didn't
to
at all.
ice crystals or debris or, some other stuff probably. That'll do. See you later. Let's move on.
Like the classic arrow defense, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't know, it's probably something, and if it isn't, then I'm sure it probably was.
Yeah, we'll throw a few things out there and disprove us. Disprove us. We've got the original footage. We went there.
This one, what is it, about 519 coming in? There's like a disc coming in from the top, flickering as it comes down. This is I slowed this right down as well, by the way, and did it and increased the frame rate so we could get I didn't do much. It didn't need much enhancing at all, really, just to bring the just to take some of the fuzz off the edges, and then a little bit Da Vinci. But yeah, some of them, and that last one, the last video where one separates. When we were saying that one, Jimmy, it's going right to the bottom of the screen and then breaks away into another one, and they're both independently flashing, and I think it goes back to it.
Yeah, and they split. Yeah,
and they split. Yeah, yeah. There's one that grabs hold of another one, and it joins it up again, and as they're coming down, just too many I mean, you could, like you say, you could get ice crystals, debris, and half a dozen other things, but not these. This is like,
So this was analysed by, let's have a look. Dr. Mark Carlotto,
right,
who said that the footage appears to be. He says some of the objects appear to occlude behind the tether, which challenges NASA's explanation that they were just close-up particles. That's Dr. Mark Carlotto. So that's he's an image analysis expert. So he seems to disagree with the objects being close to the sensor capturing the footage, and presented his findings in peer-reviewed aerospace publications, and has discussed it in his book, The Case for the UFO, which is interesting. It's also been featured in Out of the Blue documentaries, Secret NASA Transmissions by Martin Stubbs, and Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer, or featuring Dr. Stephen Greer discussing it. I think it's a TV show, is now Unacknowledged. So I don't think it's his show, but he was talking about it on there. That's interesting. So mixed opinion by sounds of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
What do I think? I don't know. I think that it's one of the best ones out there because it's just so weird, and you can hear the voices of the in the transmission. I don't know if it's the base or if it's the astronauts, whoever it is, but you can see them when it sort of switches, and you can see these objects. They're sort of stumped by it, and they're like, "And we're seeing this sort of something strange."
There's a lot of stuff swimming around out there. He literally says,
"A lot of stuff out there."
Guys, getting the image?
Franklin, we see a long line, a couple of star-like things, and a lot of things swimming in the foreground. Can you describe what you're seeing?
And I think sometimes you can get it quite a lot from what's not said, but the tone of what's said, and it stumped them. So I don't think it's an obvious, well, that's clearly ice crystals. We know what that is. We see that all the time. I mean, it may well be that may be part of them, some of the objects, but they seemed really stumped, which I found fascinating.
Me too.
And they've not really fully, from what I could see from researching it, they've not really fully covered it other than just throwing loads of things out there.
They don't know, do they?
And yeah, there's a couple of them that turn and change direction, which is, really unusual. And back then in 1996, 1996, that's prior to, Starlinks and all that sort of jazz. So I would expect them to know what satellites are about, what's out there in space. Less so now, I suppose, with so many thousands of them floating about. But they would know, they would be able to say, look, we've seen what that was. That giant thing that moved underneath it was whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or this object in amongst the ice crystals was, this satellite. But they haven't done that. They've just gone, it might be this, or this, possibly. We don't know.
Another question is if there was a flashing light on top of the space shuttle. I can't imagine why you'd need a flashing light on top of the space shuttle when you're in space. But that if the objects were close, then the skeptic could be taken seriously about these things flashing, because they do seem to flash or pulse at a regular rate. But then it's like, well, if they're a plasma, then is that just their kind of frequency? Like when you're filming a TV screen, then there's an argument on both sides of it there.
Yeah.
But
it could be hard to tell from this video because I did slow it down and the frame rates are.
Yeah, but you say that though, Peter, if you look at your footage that you've slowed down with frame rates, you'll see that the flashing is different for different objects.
Different. So
So and there's a lot of objects. So if it was just from one light pulsing,
aren't
would
they?
be pretty much the same time rather than at different times.
Yeah.
That's why I included some the split screen, so you can see there's hardly any difference at all, apart from clarity, really. What am I look? Sorry, where am I looking? 215.
Yeah.
The little flashing objects, both sides. You can see where it's coming from. It's just clearer, so it's not the AI freaks coming out going it's all made up, because you can see there's hardly any difference at all.
Yeah. Well, you even see that side-by-side comparison of the two where we were looking at the sort of 210, 215 on your video. But you can see the one below is, a few frames behind the one above in changing in sort of pulsing.
Absolutely.
So that would feel like it counts that out, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or that
got quite fast, the bottom one. The top one's slower.
Yeah.
It is
weird. I mean, we're never going to know, are we? We're never going to know for sure. I mean, it's one of those cases, and there's quite a few of these NASA cases out there.
Oh,
that are just weird and they're just hard to explain. And even the astronauts, like I think I found one before where I was just looking at some of the public commentary about it from anyone that had gone out to any astronauts. And I think the only one I could find was Story Musgrave, Dr. Story Musgrave, who's a NASA astronaut, 6 shuttle missions. And he's openly discussed his belief in UFOs, and he's commented on this one saying that it cannot be explained. He didn't directly say it's non-human or whatever, but he felt that the footage cannot be explained.
We don't know,
which is interesting.
He's qualified to be there taking that footage, so there's not many better people to comment on it.
Absolutely, yeah. So that is interesting.
I think what I've noticed on this as well, because I got a higher resolution on the images on the video. You can see more going on on the close-up, fainter stuff moving and pulsing around in the background, which adds another perspective to the.
Some of the pulsing will be things that are spinning. If it is an infrared camera, then obviously when something gets more flat on, it's going to be sending back a lot more and doing a bloom. And if it's spinning at a constant rate, then you're going to get that. But they're not all with the same luminosity, and some of them seem to slow down their pulse and then speed it up again. So it's this unpredictable behavior, which is that's what's the really, really interesting stuff. It all looks a bit weird. Like I said, when you watch the full video and you actually see the tether, it sort of pigtails a bit at the end, and you can see a lot of definition to the shape of it. But in that sort of pond life microscope
Yeah,
looking video,
it is, isn't it?
it's all kind of just blown up into one cylinder looking tube thing. But it just doesn't explain the weird part, and the weird part's what you're left with at the end of it. That's fascinating.
It's
Yeah.
really fascinating.
I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, can ice particles be 2 miles long in space? I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. I don't know. I don't know what's
I can't
been
imagine that'd be very
observed, but
healthy for Starlink. Maybe that's why they
no.
keep
Yeah.
crashing.
Yeah. I'm going to ask GPT the question because I just that they look as if they go below it, and I know there's some potential ways that the way the image is captured, it could show that it, but in some of them, especially some of the enhancements that you've done, Pete,
Yeah.
I mean, it's that it looks clearly like it goes below, underneath, and passes, and you've got the very clear image of the tether, and it
Yeah.
doesn't change in its brightness, luminosity at all. It's just, and then the object underneath,
Yeah.
but it stops. The dead straight line between the object is, so it does look like it goes through, and even when you've slowed it right down.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Because normally
Any
you,
ice crystal that gets too big just ends up getting pulled into the atmosphere and burnt up anyway. So there's
right,
not going to be any of these whopping great things that look like the
mega
great
crystals.
big jellyfish looking stuff that you've managed to capture, mate. So
No.
it only works for so far. But yeah, why haven't we revisited it at any point and
No.
said for definite what this is? It's very strange.
Hmm.
And on the video that's on YouTube, which is about 25 minutes long, they actually cut out the weird bits.
All
That's
right.
on the National Space Agency's YouTube. So that seems a little strange.
Wow. Yeah.
I did only watch it all through once, but I didn't notice any of the weird pondy stuff that we've been looking at in their officially released thing. So
It's like cutting the
curious.
feed in it as soon, and then they've put a delay on now, haven't they?
Mm.
Is there a
Yeah.
15-second delay
Yeah,
on your
Yeah.
viewing with the
Yeah.
national?
yeah.
And there's isn't there like a year delay on the James Webb Space Telescope? Or something like
Really?
that. I'm sure it's something like that.
Really?
I don't know if it's like an entire year, but they delay the. I mean, don't hold me to that
No.
specific time, but
There's probably a
it's
waiting list of a
yeah.
year, I'd imagine, to get on the
There's
James Webb. I'd love to go.
yeah, but there's I think they've got ownership of it until whenever, and then they release it after a certain period of time. It might not be here, it might be a few months, but they've got a certain amount of time before they have to kind of release it to the public because it's publicly funded, isn't it? And it's billions it costs. But yeah, I
Yeah.
remember seeing something about that before where they've got this, this bit of honeymoon time with the footage before everybody else does to decide what they're going to do with it and if anything. Which makes sense because if you see something like, okay, there's an asteroid heading towards us,
Yeah.
we've got a bit of
Yeah.
time to plan before we freak everyone out. Or alternatively, if there's a spaceship heading towards us, we've got a bit of time to figure out a bit of disclosure.
Yeah.
What we're going
There's
to
that
do.
much bigger discussion with I forget her name. Was it Paula? Somebody that was Werner von Braun's understudy. She was in the 2001 Disclosure Project, and then she was saying that she basically opened an office door one day, and they're in there doctoring the footage from like covering up stuff that's on the moon and all this kind of stuff, and yeah, very interesting. I mean, I understand nobody wants to see a horrible accident, and unfortunately, Columbia was later in life involved in a tragedy. So a bit of a delay isn't a bad thing, but it also leaves the door open for any awkward things that
Yeah.
you don't want people to see.
Yeah.
Now, do you see that footage, audio of the astronauts naming the objects that they're not allowed to say are UFOs? And they had half a dozen Santa Claus.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah.
A pony or something. I
Yeah.
can't remember. Well, he's made, and there's another Santa Claus over there.
Yeah.
What? Just come on.
I've just asked the most intelligent software in the world, ChatGPT, the question about ice crystals, and ChatGPT says that Ice crystals in space would not be a mile long. That would be physically absurd under known conditions of space operations. And then it says, what does it say? On average, ranging, in low Earth orbit, where the space shuttle flew, ice crystals are usually ranging from microns to a few millimeters, maybe
Wow.
up to centimeters in rare cases, never meters or miles in size. So if we can, yeah, I mean, it's highly strange if it has gone underneath the tether and suggests that it's, you know, up to half a mile to a mile, maybe, depending on your calculations of the length of that thing and how big it is. But yeah, that's what I found really strange, really strange. And it seems like that seems to be one of the bigger, it's the change of direction and the size of this thing that appears to be moving under the tether on a couple of occasions.
Just watching two pass under it there, roughly
Yeah.
three, third one going through. Different tones, almost look like different.
Yeah. And not at any stage does it look as if, from any of those that I've seen, does it look as if there's a change of color or a change of focus on the tether when the object passes to suggest that it's across the screen rather than underneath and genuinely underneath.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll never know for sure. I guess that's part of the speculation. But that's what I find most interesting. I think those two key points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right there. So I did get some of that when I went too far with the enhancers I picked the wrong models. And there is a drag. You get drags with the stars or whatever they are passing over each other, and trails. You must have seen that, Tom. And then I just took it down to a basic denoise model, and then pulled the blackness back, to bring the light out. Worked perfectly, and yeah, it didn't get any of that. And I was really pleased then when I got that close of it passing underneath. There was no drag or anything. It looked like it absolutely is, and it looks like it's got a substance. Some of them don't. Some look like, well, perhaps that's all it can interpret it as. A ring, like a ring with a dot in the middle. It's insane, that one.
But that's it. I mean, it is an infrared camera again, so
Yeah.
we're dealing with the same issues as when we're looking at the gimbal and the go fast and stuff like that. We're seeing a representation of the infrared rather than the actual solid object itself. So it's so frustrating, and you wish they had like some sort of giant zoom lens on there instead, so we could see
4K.
optically. But the point is something's there. It's think. Objects, debris doesn't just change direction 180 degrees, and there's no sign of, like, when a comet degasses, then it sort of tumbles, or there's an evidence of it, and that isn't on these things. They're just, some of them are pulling like nice little turns and stuff like that. So I don't know until we can all rent a rocket and get up there and have a look. I don't think we're going to solve it down here.
Pete, this leads us on your exceptional work. What's next? What's next on your channel, man? We want to we want to bang out as much really, really interesting stuff. And I know the issue is it takes a lot of your time to do it. And whilst people are there going, "What's next? What's next?" and I'm one of them. Obviously, it takes a significant amount of your time and mental energy.
Tedium.
Yeah, as I know from the conversations with you. Yeah.
Render time. My God, it's been so painful.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one.
Tip top. See you, Tom.
See you, folks.
Guys. Cheers now. Bye now.